Umwaka village was small, but it was home. Cynthia and Famous had known each other since they were children, growing up in a world of red earth, bright stars, and the laughter of village life. Fetching firewood was part of their daily routine. It was hard work, but together it felt different. The long walks, the laughter, and the whispered secrets made it special. One evening, as they sat on a fallen tree, Cynthia rested her head on Famous's shoulder. Do you ever wonder what life outside this village is like? She asked. Famous smiled. I will go to Lagos one day and become a great businessman. I'll wear fine suits and drive big cars. Cynthia giggled. I will own a restaurant, a big one, and you'll have to pay if you eat there. Famous chuckled, but his voice softened. What if we build that future together? She turned to look at him, her heart pounding. They were just teenagers, but something in her heart told her this was love. As they grew older, their bond deepened. They became inseparable, stealing moments to meet under the mango tree, whispering dreams into the night. Her mother wept. What will become of you now? Famous's father, Chief Okonkwo, refused to accept the situation. My son has a future in Lagos. He will not waste his life on this mistake. Famous stood silent, torn between love and fear. He wanted to stay and fight for Cynthia, but his father had other plans. That night, without a word, Famous was sent away to Lagos, leaving Cynthia behind. She woke up the next morning waiting for him, expecting to hear his voice, but he was gone. Cynthia sat outside her home for days, hoping he would return, but as time passed, reality sank in. He wasn't coming back. She was alone. The villagers treated her like an outcast. The boys who once admired her now mocked her. The girls who had been her friends now whispered about her behind her back. When her belly grew larger, she was expelled from school. Her own father refused to look after her. You will raise that child alone, he said coldly. Her mother tried to support her, but fear of Pa Obi's wrath kept her silent. Cynthia cried herself to sleep every night, her hands on her belly. Why did you leave me, Famous? She whispered into the darkness, but no one answered. When Cynthia gave birth to a baby girl, Johnny, she expected things to change. Instead, life got worse. There was no food, no money, no help. She knocked on neighbors' doors, begging for anything to feed her child. Some slammed their doors in her face, others sighed but gave only scraps. Johnny cried for milk, but Cynthia had none to give. One cold night, Cynthia held her hungry baby close, whispering, I will never let you suffer. She refused to be defeated. She left the village and went to Lagos, carrying Johnny on her back, determined to build a future. Lagos was cruel to the poor. Cynthia slept under bridges, begged for work, and did whatever it took to survive. She got a job cleaning tables at a local restaurant. The owner paid her little, but it was enough for a cup of rice and a small gari. Johnny, still a toddler, grew up watching her mother struggle. One night, after a long day at work, Cynthia walked home carrying a small bag of food. She found Johnny sitting alone, crying. Where is your food? Cynthia asked, panicked. I gave it to the little boy next door, Johnny whispered. He was hungry. Tears filled Cynthia's eyes. Even in poverty, her daughter had a heart full of kindness. That night, Cynthia made a promise. One day, we will have more than enough. She started selling food by the roadside. Her jollof rice became famous. Slowly, her food stand turned into a restaurant. Years later, Famous was a successful businessman. He had money, cars, and everything he had once dreamed of. But something was missing. One hot afternoon, his car broke down in Lagos, right across from a small restaurant. Frustrated, he stepped inside. Welcome, sir, a warm voice greeted him. What will you have? Famous froze. It was Cynthia. She didn't recognize him at first, but as she handed him a cold bottle of water, their eyes met. Memories crashed down on them. Famous swallowed hard. Cynthia ... Her hands trembled, but she forced a smile. Would you like jollof rice? He nodded. unable to speak. As he ate, every bite felt like home. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her. Days later, he returned. This time, not for food, but for answers. Cynthia told him everything about how she waited, about how she suffered, about how their daughter grew up thinking her father was dead. Famous's heart shattered. I never knew, he whispered. Cynthia's voice was filled with pain. You didn't want to know. Journey, now a young girl, stood at the door listening. When she finally spoke, her voice was full of anger. You left my mother to suffer, she said, glaring at him. You left me. Famous's eyes filled with tears. I want to make things right. Journey crossed her arms. You can't change the past. Famous didn't give up. He spent weeks visiting the restaurant, trying to win Journey's trust. One evening, as the sun set, he found her outside, alone. Can we talk? He asked. Journey sighed. Why did you leave her? Famous's voice broke. Because I was a coward, but I'm here now. Slowly she began to forgive him. And Cynthia, she wasn't ready to love him again. But she saw him trying. One evening, after the restaurant had closed and the last customers had left, Cynthia sat outside staring at the stars. It had been years since she last thought about the boy she once loved. The boy who had become a man and now sat inside a restaurant, eating her food, wanting to make amends. She heard the door creak open. Journey stood there, arms crossed, her face hardened with years of unspoken pain. He's still here? Journey asked, her voice sharp. Cynthia sighed. Yes. Journey scoffed. You should tell him to leave. He doesn't deserve to sit in there like everything is fine. Cynthia turned to her daughter. He's your father. Journey's eyes flared. No, he's a stranger. A father doesn't abandon his child. Famous stepped out of the restaurant, his face tired but determined. Journey, he started, but Journey stepped back, her fists clenched. Don't say my name like you know me, she snapped. Famous swallowed, pain flashing in his eyes. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. I just want a chance to... To what? Journey interrupted. To pretend the last 16 years didn't happen. To erase the nights we starved. The times we begged. The times Mama cried herself to sleep because she thought she wasn't enough. Famous flinched as though every word was a slap to the face. I was young, he admitted, his voice raw. I was scared. My father forced me to leave, and Journey laughed bitterly. And you never came back? Not even once? Not even to check if she was alive? Cynthia placed a gentle hand on Journey's arm. Nuam, I understand your anger. Journey pulled away. No, Mama, you forgive too easily. She turned back to Famous. You don't get to show up now and act like you care. We survived without you, and we don't need you now. With that, she stormed inside, leaving Famous standing there, shoulders heavy with guilt. Cynthia sighed. She's not wrong. Famous ran a hand over his face. I know, but I swear to you, Cynthia, I never stopped thinking about you, about her. His voice broke. I want to fix this. Cynthia looked at him, eyes filled with years of pain. Fixing things takes more than words, Famous. And with that, she walked inside, leaving him standing alone under the cold Lagos sky. That night, Journey lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. For 16 years, she had lived with the image of a father who didn't care, a father who had left her to struggle in the dark. And now, just like that, he was back. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing the tears away. A soft knock came at the door. Can I come in? Cynthia's voice was gentle. Journey didn't respond, but Cynthia entered anyway. She sat beside her daughter, smoothing her hair like she had when she was a child. Nwam, I know this is hard. Journey turned to her. You're not mad at him? Cynthia sighed. I was for years. I hated him, Journey. I thought I would never forgive him. She paused. But hate is a heavy thing to carry. Journey looked away. I just don't understand how you're so calm. Cynthia smiled sadly. because I've seen life, my love. I've known pain, betrayal, and loss. But I also know that people change. She touched Johnny's hand. I don't expect you to forgive him overnight, but don't let your anger steal your peace. Johnny swallowed, feeling the tightness in her chest. I just don't want him to think he can walk back in like nothing happened. He doesn't, Cynthia said softly. He's trying. Johnny sighed. I don't know if I can ever forgive him. Cynthia kissed her forehead. Then take your time, my love, but don't shut him out completely. Sometimes even the broken things in life can be mended. Johnny stared at the ceiling long after Cynthia left, her mother's words swirling in her mind, and for the first time in years she wondered, what if she gave him a chance?